이번 출격지는 한중일 협력사무국의 신봉길 사무총장님이시죠?
한중일 협력사무국? 전 처음 들어봐요. 국제기구인가요?
생긴 지 얼마 안 돼서 잘 모르실 건데 2010년에 삼국 정상회의 때 이제 나온 거고 전임 대통령이 제안하셨어요. 정치랑 경제를 중심으로 좀 더 적극적으로 협력하자는 취지에서 생겼어요.
그러고 보니까 유럽연합도 있는데 범아시아 기구는 없네요. 그 아세안도 동남아연합기구고.
그러게요. 이렇게 의미 있는 국제기구를 한국이 주도해서 만들었다는 게 왠지 좀 뿌듯하기도 한데요. 그리고 어떤 역할을 하는 기구인지 구체적으로 어떤 일을 하고 있는지 조금 알아봐야 될 것 같아요.
18개 장관급 회의를 포함한 50개 이상의 정부 간 협의 채널과 100개 이상의 협력 사업을 추진하셨어요.
오, 구체적이진 않은데요.
잘 들어봐. 삼국의 정치, 경제 문제를 서로 잘 협력하자고 만든 기구인데 예를 들면 정상회의나 장관급 회의나 이런 게 열렸을 때 그 결과 내용을 공식적인 페이퍼로 정리해서 서로 공유하는 작업 이런 것부터 시작하더라고요.
그럼 지금까지는 그런 게 없었다는 말인가요? 아마 각 나라별로는 각자 했겠죠. 근데 그러다 보면은 각 나라마다 이렇게 해석하는 것도 다르고 좀 오해하는 부분도 있을 거예요.
그럼 설마 회의록 같은 것만 만드는데 그치진 않겠죠?
한중일 FTA 문의 작업도 많이 하고 있고 재난 대비 훈련에 관한 정보도 교류하고 하는 일이 무지 많아요.
그게 점점 커지면 EU처럼 영향력 있는 국제기구가 될 수도 있겠어요.
그렇죠. EU도 처음에는 단순히 경제협력기구로만 시작했는데 사실 그때도 한 30명 정도밖에 직원이 없었거든요, 처음에.
아, 그럼 우리도 좀 제법 세계 무대에서 몸집 좀 커지겠네요.
미래엔 그런 가능성도 있죠. 그렇죠?
그런데 요즘 우리나라랑 일본이랑 중국이랑 과거사 문제도 있고 영토 문제도 있고 좀 매끄럽진 않지 않나요?
아무래도 삼국이 좀 잘해보자라고 모인 거기 때문에 사무실 분위기는 가보니까 되게 좋더라고요. 모든 게 다 공평해.
그러면은 운영도 공평하게 하는 건가요?
네. 운영비도 3분의 1, 거기 상주 직원도 3분의 1씩.
근데 회의 같은 거 하다 보면은 아무래도 좀 자기 나라 편 좀 들게 되지 않을까요? 저 같으면 그럴 것 같은데.
워낙 한국, 중국, 일본은 각자 이렇게 자존심도 세고 아까 말씀하신 대로 과거사 문제도 있기 때문에 그런 거 조금은 있겠죠. 근데 젊은이들이잖아요. 젊은이들이 같이 모여서 일하는 거기 때문에 그 분위기가 사실 정말 어떤지 궁금해요. 재밌을 것 같아요.
신봉길 총장님은 어떤 분이세요?
30년 직업 외교관 출신이신데 중국에서 7년, 일본에서도 3년, 그리고 북한 담당 과장도 맡으신 적이 있대요.
박 작가님 사진 그 다녀오셨잖아요.
그러니까 여러 나라에 다녀오셨지만 특히 북한 문제에 있어서는 인생 최대의 관심사라는 얘기도 많이 했기 때문에 그 이야기를 듣고 갔었는데 진짜 실제로 가서 뵈니까 실감이 났어요. 그러니까 스튜디오에서 그 얘기를 듣는 것도 되게 좋을 것 같아요. 그러니까 지나온 인생사에도 굉장히 많은 이야기가 있어요.
그럴게요. 뭐 이 정도면은 키워드는 충분히 나온 것 같아요. 정리해보자. 우리 인턴이 아까 궁금해하는 것 같은데 뭐가 궁금하세요?
저는 한중일 협력사무국의 정체에 대해서 알고 싶어요.
좋아요. 그리고요?
저는 사무총장이 어떻게 뽑히는지 궁금해요. 한중일이 다 모여있는데 어떻게 이렇게 운영이 되는지도 좀 궁금해요.
정리를 하면 사무국의 운영 방식이라고 할 수 있겠죠? 하나 더 할까요?
전 신봉길 사무총장님 개인적인 이야기를 들어보면 좋을 것 같아요.
이 정도면 될 것 같은데 외교 전문가시니까는 그 한중일의 만만치 않은 관계를 어떻게 조율해 나가시는지 직접 만나뵈서 이야기 듣도록 해요.
China, Japan, and Korea make up 1/4 of the world's population, and the three nations also account for 1/6 of the world's trade. They are an economic force to be reckoned with. So what would happen if these three countries joined forces? Well, to explore that question, the three countries actually joined forces and formed the Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat, or TCS. And today's guest on Heart to Heart is the Secretary-General of TCS, Mr. Shin Bong-kil. Mr. Shin, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks. It's my honor.
It's our pleasure to have you. So tell us a little bit about TCS. It's not a public organization, is it?
Yeah, it's not a private organization. It's an international organization. It is established by the agreement by the three top leaders of the China, Japan, and Korea. And it was established by treaty signed by three countries. And also it was ratified by three legislative bodies of three countries. And it has privileges and immunities. So we can say it has all the characteristics of the international organization. So it is an intergovernmental international organization.
So could you tell us about what sort of work that TCS does?
Well, I think the most important role which we are doing is providing support for the operation and management of the trilateral consultative mechanism. When I say trilateral consultative mechanism, that means that top-level meetings, like summit meetings and foreign ministers meetings and other important ministerial level meetings. This, our Secretariat is participating in these kind of meetings and sometimes make summary records, provide documents to them. And this is one thing. And another important role is kind of facilitating existing trilateral cooperation and also explore new agendas. Recently, TCS organized a tabletop exercise for disaster management. And as you know, after Fukushima incident, this disaster management area became a very hot topic of this area. And also, I think one of the important other aspect of the role is overall promoting the trilateral, cooperation, that broadening the constituency of the supporting of trilateral cooperation. That is our third important role. We sometimes organize forums, international forums, and also seminars. And these are, I can say, that's the main aspect of our work.
Very important work, I'm sure, but excuse me for saying this, but wouldn't the foreign ministries of each country have been doing those tasks or been in charge of those roles already?
Actually, of course, there exists a trilateral cooperation even before the coming of this organization. But I can say that it was not so systematic, not so institutionalized. With the coming of this organization, this cooperation became more systematic and institutionalized.
And this, I guess, arose from the need for the three countries to cooperate more closely.
Yes, of course. There was a cooperation, but it was quite a loose one. Even after summit meeting, there was not independent documents, remaining documents. Each country made their own documents. And after coming of this organization, we are making documents in English as a neutral language. So that's what we are contributing substantially to this process.
So the one document in English is circulated among the three countries?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So that means the TCS must also have people, the employees must come from the three countries, I imagine.
That's right.
Is it equally divided among the three countries?
Yes.
Like 10, 10, 10, or how do you come across that?
Mostly equally divided. And you know that nowadays it's unemployment is a big issue. Even other countries like China and Japan. So nobody wants to abandon their seat. So competing very well. So that's I can tell you that it's almost equally divided. But we have a little more because this is a host country. Korea is host country, and some administrative staffs like secretary or driver, they cannot but be Korean. So I can say a little more Korean local staffs.
A few more
but basically it is equally divided.
How do you recruit them then? Do you put out notices in Japan and China?
Yes, actually, we put our notice in our website. And when last time when first recruiting the staffs, actually huge number of students, I mean youngsters from 3 countries applied. Actually, it was very, very difficult to select, particularly from China. China is a big population, and I was very surprised that they are very enthusiastic and very aggressive in seeking jobs in abroad.
How many applicants applied?
For example, you see, we recruited 6 research staffs, equally divided by 2 to 2. From China, more than 1,000,
Wow.
1,100 for 2 seats. And from Korea, around 120. Then from Japan, around 20. So I can see Chinese are most aggressive. And maybe Japanese are not so, outward looking.
So you said it was very difficult to choose just 2.
That's right, that's right.
I imagine language could be one factor, also how much passion or willingness they want to work at TCS. I mean, what's the working environment like? It must be very unique with staff from these 3 countries.
Yes, that's right.
What's the environment
I'm
like?
very proud of our staffs. They are very much talented and cosmopolitan. And they are also has a talent in language. Most of them, they speak 3 or 4 languages. So they are very talented, young, cosmopolitan. I'm really, I can proud of it. I'm very proud of it. At least our staffs are concerned.
And they mix well together? It's not just the Koreans hanging out with the Koreans and the
right.
Japanese?
Really, they mix well. They get along well. Even though in country-wise, there are some certain tensions between our 3. But general service staffs, they have no problem. They get along really well. They are very much open-minded. At least to general service staff-wise, the atmosphere, they really we have no problem in getting along.
Well, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So let's really see what the atmosphere is like at the office of TCS. The Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat, TCS, is located in Cheongno-gu, Seoul. The Secretariat in Seoul opened in September 2011. Since then, China, Japan, and Korea have shared the annual operating costs equally. Employees are also divided equally between Chinese, Japanese, and Koreans. We wondered what it's like to work there.
I don't, in daily life, I don't really think about there is 3 nationals here. We are all colleagues. We're working as the one. So I don't really feel like we are different. We are working for the same purpose, same thing. And even though there's a different approaches by those 3 nationals, but we're heading to the one goal, so a trilateral cooperation.
Actually, I didn't expect that we actually can make friends here with our colleagues, but I guess the atmosphere is not like the outside world. I guess it's more cooperative, and we are very happy to know each other and work with together. That's the most exciting things I got from here.
I was a TV journalist, as you did before, in Hong Kong, and every day the news I was doing, and I get experience. There's so many negative and bad news about the 3 countries. So I try to think about that. I would like to really do something good, do something in a positive way for the 3 countries relation. And one day I just suddenly saw a notice online that the TCS is recruiting more people, more young generation to come to contribute to the 3 countries relation. So I feel I had such a passion, and I would like to really do something in the real sense for the 3 countries relation.
It's open house day at TCS. The highlight is a traditional tea ceremony that pays homage to all 3 countries.
Basically, this Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat is political and economic organization, mainly involved in summit meetings and the foreign ministers meetings. But this time, sometimes we are also involved in cultural activity too. This is opening house, and using this occasion, we wanted to show the audiences, visitors, that the cultural kind of differences of three countries.
Tea ceremony experts in traditional costumes demonstrate as a charmed audience looks on.
한중일 같은 동아시아에 위치하고 있는데요. 좀 각각 다른 색다른 다도 문화가 있어서 좀 신기한 느낌이 들었어요. 네.
I've heard of them before, but I've never seen them. And I thought it would be really interesting to see three major countries like at once.
The best synergy effect happens when cooperation is based on recognition of differences and similarities. We hope that TCS becomes an essential hub for the three nations.
It really looks like everyone's having a lot of fun. They are working, of course, but they also seem to be learning from each other and having fun. But imagine each country and the employees from each country have their different way of working, and perhaps they have their different agenda as well. Do you ever come across that as well, like with employees or each country focusing on a different area?
No, that is not the case. No. Actually, see, when we have a project, actually the three country staffs, they are involved all together. Almost all the staffs, all the cases, actually the three nationalities together work. That means that everybody shows interest, and the work is not divided by the nationality. The work is divided by the ability and the characteristic. So it is not divided by the nationality.
Imagine though, aside from the language barrier as well, which you actually said there isn't because everyone speaks English, but there must be cultural barriers as to how these different nationalities work, usually in the office. Maybe for stereotype, maybe Koreans are a little bit more outspoken than their Japanese counterparts, or I'm not sure how it goes. Are there some difficulties because of the cultural?
Certainly there is some cultural differences, like different value system, and the working style is different.
Right.
Everything is a little different. But actually, this is a strong, the strength of our organization. That when we work something, that these kind of differences complement each other. So at first it was a little difficult to manage, you see, these different working styles. For example, certain countries, staffs are more cautious in approaching work and takes more time or more conservative in their viewpoint. But in case of Koreans, they are, I may say, it's more flexible or speedy in the decision. But these different qualities actually, as I told you, complement each other and makes harmony. And now I have with some more patience that I can say this is a better quality than other offices.
I imagine actually learning and working side by side and learning from the cultural differences could actually help your office and the workers to better understand the people in the government or the people that you have to support through TCS, the cultural differences and the workings. It becomes easier to sort of negotiate and also work together at a different, higher level too, no?
Yes, actually, we have, as I told you, general service staffs, which are recruited from open competition by three countries, and also professional staffs like me, who are seconded from each government. And these two groups are a little different because we are, even though I'm the independent international organization official, still I am representing somehow Korea. And my two deputies, one is from China and one is from Japan, they represent their own countries. So we form a board, and this board meeting make important decisions. Still, sometimes they should consider the position of each government. So when this board member talk, it's a real tension, and it's not easy always to make a consensus. But in case of general service staffs, as I told, it's really no problem, and sometimes complement each other. Of course, our professional staffs also, you see, in case of me, I would like to make something and hurry and want a speedy kind of resolution. But the other two sometimes advise me to be more patient, cautious. So I think these kind of things, you see, I hope sometimes can harmoniously make things going well. And but you need some kind of patience, always.
So it's the professional staff can also learn from the general staff and vice versa, I'm sure.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
You mentioned there was some little tension with the board and the two deputies and the Korean being the Secretary-General. It must have been very difficult to bring the Secretariat to Seoul. Could you tell us about how that came to be, how you managed to bring it to Seoul, and how you came to be the Secretary-General and not the deputy?
Oh, actually, once my government, you see, decided to host this organization to Seoul, headquarters to Seoul. I think geographically, this Korea is the center of the other two, China and Japan. So I think naturally, Korea be the best place for the location of this headquarters. And also, maybe in political wise, when we think of the traditional rivalry between China and Japan, I think that Korea may be the best one to coordinate the two big powers. So that's why I think Korea was chosen as a location of the headquarters. First, Secretary-General should establish this office, this organization. Headquarters, you see, Korea is a headquarters. So I think naturally, Korean should be the first Secretary-General. And I am chosen of my career that I have served in China and Japan for almost 10 years as a diplomat. And I can command two languages also. That's why I was chosen as a first Secretary-General. And my successor comes from Japan, then China. It rotates every 2 years. And we have this order is, we call it chair country order. The chair country, first was, this summit meeting was held in Japan, then China, then Korea. This is the order of the chair country. So all the protocol are applied in this, by this chair country order. And so you see, when my term ends, my successor comes first from Japan, then China, then Korea, this kind of rotation.
And you mentioned that your term is 2 years, so that means your term is coming
soon
to an end.
Ending.
Looking back then on the past 2 years, what would be the most difficult moment? What was the most difficult and hardest time?
Oh. Well, every day it is not easy, and always, you see, as I told you, managing the everyday situation, making kind of consensus, these are really difficult, particularly when the three countries' relationships are tense. Certain countries can feel estranged, or so it's really, as a Secretary-General, to manage everyday's work is not easy, actually. That I may say it's difficult times for me.
So every day is a little bit difficult when you go into work. You don't know what you'll face that day.
Well, actually, when I opened this office, you see, with just a sheet of paper appointing me as a first Secretary-General, signed by 3 foreign ministers of China, Japan, and Korea. That was all. There was no budget prepared. And I should almost beg my budget office, Korea, to to rent this present office. And they didn't have much understanding to my newly coming organization. And really it was difficult to persuade them to get money and renting office and even buying furniture, everything. Right. I started from the scratch actually, and also making regulations small and big and rules with getting the approval of, from 3 countries. These were all very tormenting process.
Right. But thanks to your work, in 2 years, it's now up and running, organization of nearly 30 personnel. Now that it's established itself as a very important body for cooperation hub for China, Japan, and Korea, what now? What is the most pressing agenda for TCS?
Actually, the most pressing agenda, the most important, actually the important issue at this moment is, as you may understand, the 3 countries has bilaterally has problem with regard to the territorial issues and or history issues. So this makes these bilateral issues makes our office a little stressful in managing our works. I think that 3 countries should overcome this kind of past issues, and we cannot be held back with this kind of bilateral issues. I think this is the most pressing issues, and because of this kind of climate, 3 countries at the moment cannot decide this year's annual summit meeting. I'm talking with the 3 parties, but the political climate is not so favorable in convening this year's annual summit meeting. It is this year, Korea is the host country.
I would think that one of the most pressing issues is actually the free trade agreement between the 3 countries. The first meeting was held last spring in Seoul. How have things progressed since then?
Well, actually, yes, the first meeting was held in Seoul, and soon we will have another negotiation in this time in, I think, in China. And as you said, that this is a really important issue, a really important agenda between the 3 countries. If it is successfully concluded that this area will make a 3rd largest economic bloc after NAFTA and EU, really powerful economic bloc. And my office is not directly involved in negotiation, but we are very actively involved in promoting this, this agenda. Recently, our office held a trilateral FTA seminar in China, Weihai, that promoting the awareness of this important agenda to the people of 3 countries. We are going to hold this again in Tokyo next time, and then again in Seoul. We are very much involved in this kind of publicity effort.
Well, these talks would definitely are for the future, a better future for our 3 countries. But unfortunately, a lot of the news that we see is about the past that our 3 countries share. Does our difficult past affect those talks on the future? How difficult are things right now?
Actually, yes. I cannot say it doesn't affect the trilateral cooperation. But I think these history issues or territorial issues, we should overcome this kind of issue. We cannot be held back by this kind of bilateral issues hampering the development of trilateral cooperation. So, but I'm optimistic. We can overcome this this kind of issue, and we should escape from the shallow nationalism by the 3 countries. This is a real difficult problem, but I believe in the young generation of 3 countries who doesn't have who didn't themselves experience this unfortunate history.
Is it also part of TCS's job maybe to help promote a more sort of conducive public atmosphere, or to maybe hold a forum or hold some sort of events that would maybe mollify public opinion and produce a more friendly sort of environment? Is that part of your job too?
Oh yes, of course. And recently we organized two kind of activities. One is Young Ambassadors Program. This is an internship program recruiting this kind of young university level students. And they are equally divided by 3 countries.
Of course.
And we invite them to Seoul, and we have a lecture, and we have a program visiting international organizations in around this Seoul city, and also visiting the industrial area, this kind of internship program. And it also collected a lot of attention. And we are going to recruit 30 internship, but more than 600 applied for it. I'm very sorry that I couldn't recruit all of them. And also one other important activity was, Trilateral Short Film Festival, short film contest from 3 countries, 42 teams. Each team is comprised of 3 nationalities. It should be Korea, China, and Japan. They, as a group, participate in this contest, competition, and the subject, the agenda should be, of course, the trilateral cooperation. And really, with their creative mind, they made a real beautiful video short film, and 42 teams competed in here. And of course, we prized number 1 to 3. And the number 1 was Fudan Dashi. It's a Chinese Bokdan Fudan University team, of course, comprised of Korea, China, Japan, 3 nationality students. And the second one was a team which came from Japan. And third one was from Korea. But it was not the competition between the countries. It was the competition of kind of cooperation. I'm really proud of it. I could see the real enthusiasm from their part. Young students, university students, really showing interest in this activity, and I hope that it could be developed into next kind of Cannes Film Festival students. 3 countries student Cannes Film Festival.
So how do young people from the 3 Asian nations communicate? How do they learn about each other's cultures? Let's take a look. 15 students have been chosen for the Young Ambassador Program. 5 students each from China, Japan, and Korea to make things fair. For 6 weeks, they'll be trained in TCS affairs. They'll also be taking a lot of interesting field trips.
This YAP program attracted more than 600 applicants from all 3 countries, so we actually had to expand the program to accommodate more participants. I think it really speaks to the interest and passion that young people have for working for an international organization like the TCS.
The students are divided into 4 teams for classes, group work, presentations, field trips, and everything else on their busy schedules. Today, the students are touring the various UN organizations in Incheon, Songdo International City. These students made it through a highly competitive admissions process. So what do they think about TCS's Young Ambassadors Program?
It's a really useful experience, I think, because for our future careers, personally, I wish to become a diplomat or even serve as a UN servant. So it's going to be a good experience how the working in those agencies is going to be and etc.
Bonding over dinner, so having how we all use chopsticks, but the slight differences, some of them are metal, some of them are not. And then finding differences but similarities, and that kind of building friendship and understanding outside of the office was probably the biggest thing for me.
TCS seems very actively involved, or you're trying to get the active involvement of youth and younger generation. Why are you so focused on youth?
Well, everybody knows that the young generation is the foundation of the future of these countries. I think the future of trilateral cooperation also depends on the young generation. Without much, let's say, kind of who didn't have a memory of an unfortunate history between our three countries.
Right.
So I hope that these rising young generation can overcome the past kind of unfortunate histories and will make real good progress for the future of this region. That's why we are focusing on young generation.
Well, thanks to today's sort of hyper-connected world, it is easier for younger generation to experience other cultures and also to travel abroad. But when you started your career as a diplomat more than 30 years ago, we didn't have the internet, we probably didn't have a lot of cable TV. So what was it that sparked your interest in wanting to pursue a career in diplomacy? How did you become interested in international relations?
And I think that it was very personal kind of experience. It was my curiosity. I couldn't be satisfied with only living in Korea. I wanted to go abroad and to experience something different from my country. And also, Korea was at that time really was a developing country, and it was not like present Korea. It was we were quite poor at that time, and I would like to contribute to our country by becoming diplomat, and that was I thought it's fulfilling my dream and my ability, and that's why I entered into the diplomatic area, and it didn't betray me. I can say I'm still very much satisfied to my job experience.
Okay. I'm here talking with Mr. Shin Bong-kil, Secretary-General of TCS, and we'll be right back after this.
Well, you know, that's a very unique organization established recently, and it got quite an attention. And as you know, these three countries is the most dynamic country in the world, and Asia's the most powerful three countries. Don't you have an intention? Why don't you work at the country which the Hallyu stars like Bae Yong-jun or Song Hye-kyo office is located in the Hallyu stars country, and I think that maybe attracted a lot of attention to
it. The troubles that we've been having with the three countries, with the past and the territorial disputes, we see a lot of that in the media. And as you say, sometimes it's being used for political reasons and nationalism. So at the ground level, and especially among the youth, it's not that big of a problem, or do you think it's overplayed in the media? What do you think?
Well, I think basically the young generations, they are quite open-minded and they understand each other quite well. But I think media is, I agree, overplaying it, emphasizing a certain size, position, and then it becomes a bigger and bigger issue and makes generations to feel emotional, to become emotional. And really it's the problem of a shallow nationalism is a big problem in three countries. And this is the responsibility of our generation, that we should be really cautious when we are talking toward the people, and particularly the leaders, top leaders of three countries' role is very important. After all, Korea, China, and Japan are geographically interlocated, and we cannot divorce from this area. We should get along well in the future. We cannot, but it's our destiny. And I hope that leaders and the people of three countries can play more wisdom in overcoming this kind of issue.
Because we have a lot of issues that we need to deal with together going
Yes,
forward,
yes,
like
yes,
the FTA,
yes.
but also maybe North Korea. I know that because you had some interest in North Korea, what ways could the three countries cooperate to bring maybe more changes or peace to the Korean Peninsula and the area?
Yes, I think that this three countries' role is really, really important with regard to the, North Korea. For example, if we three countries can successfully persuade North Korea to come out from the seclusion and to open world, then I think it will be, because these three countries are really influential countries to North Korea. I think it can influence North Korea, and also, if we successfully conclude the trilateral FTA, if this area becomes a free economic kind of area, free trade area, then North Korea cannot just remain as a isolated island.
Right.
It should come out to the open market. I hope that concluding this kind of free trade agreement can contribute to the lessening tension in this Korean Peninsula too, and everybody can freely travel to each other and do business. Then I think it will greatly help resolve the Korean Peninsula issue.
Not only that, of course, it will probably raise the economic, political profile of our three countries, probably similar to maybe the EU. I think maybe that's what we're aiming for. So are there even plans for a single maybe currency between our three countries? Do you think that?
Why not? Actually, European Union also started with a real small beginning, and you may heard about the great visionary Jean Monnet of France. He thought that to escape, to prevent another catastrophic war in Europe, that these war materials like coal and steel should be controlled jointly. And that's the beginning of the establishment of the ECSC, European Coal and Steel Community. And it gradually developed into European Economic Community and now European Union. So I hope this Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat, even though it is really a humble beginning, that it can be a small founding stone to grow into a real integrated world of this region. That's my personal hope, and I hope. But I have a belief in the future. Not exactly the EU type kind of integration, but at least the people of three countries can travel freely to each other and invest freely to each other. Maybe live freely in each other or study freely in each other's country.
Right.
I think that kind of time will come, certainly.
That's a wonderful vision. I think most people, our viewers especially, and myself, would want that. What sort of support or help or assistance, maybe even interest, do the people or the government need to take for this vision to happen, do you think?
Well, expecting a EU-like community in the very near future is it is not plausible. Okay. But when peoples of three countries communicate each other and mingling to each other, they will gradually know that the sense of community building, that we need a community much more integrated. It's really helpful for the peace and co-prosperity in the region. I hope that TCS also promote this kind of concept. Also, civilian sector and government, they can strengthening cooperation, then I think gradually this area will become a kind of community. Then, yeah, we live on peace and co-prosperity, and that's that can be the vision of this area in the future.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Shin, for coming on the show and sharing your vision of TCS and our peaceful region. Thank you very much.
It's my honor. It's my honor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. TCS brings the three countries of China, Japan, and Korea together, and we hope great things are in the future for it. We'd like to thank our guest, Mr. Shin Bong-kil, and thank you, our viewers, for watching Heart to Heart. Until next time, bye-bye.